So I remember that when I would do well at school or I'd perform well, my parents wouldn't celebrate or they wouldn't get upset. Like it would just be like, oh, cool.
Same
it was
with mine.
very neutral. So what ended up happening is I was always continuing to achieve, but our response was always neutral.
Same with mine.
Now my wife comes from the opposite, where my wife's parents celebrate everything, like the tiniest thing in the world, they'll celebrate it for her. And I think the balance is somewhat what I think helps, because you need some hunger, but then you need that happiness. And I think you're so right that just that visual, you literally said it so well that I could visualize these men working away, feeling joyous, and then you like looking from your tower and your window, just feeling dissatisfied.
What a jerk I was, you know, and learning from that jerkedness of myself.
You're right, us achievers get there. Tell us, how can we, if anyone's in that achievement, I think you've touched on something really powerful here. Anyone who's in that achievement mindset, driving themselves to burnout, where and how do they practice that happiness or that joy or whatever it is that you think we should be experiencing? How do you do it in a way that doesn't make you complacent?
Wonderful question. So you achievers, you know what you're great at doing? You're great at getting what you want. You're great at getting what you're intentional about. The reason you are not happy, this is a real fact, you are not intentional about making that a priority in your life. Just the power of intention, of pursuing it, of looking for it. There's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. And you achievers use this system far better than everybody else in the world. It's a filter, basically. It filters out all the things in your life that aren't important to you. So you don't feel the blood rushing through your left ear. You're not thinking about the clothes on your back. It's why when you're in a room and there's 100 people in the room and someone calls out your name, you hear it above all the other auditory noises. Or if you're in sales, if you're really prioritizing, you'll hear a potential customer having a conversation. So when you achievers really get intentional about pursuing bliss, pursuing happiness, your reticular activator begins to filter that into your awareness. You will begin to see, experience, hear, feel things that were always in your environment that you were screening out before because it wasn't a part of your intention.
Wow.
So intention is a huge thing. My wife, I'll tell you a quick funny story.
Yeah.
When you're married a long time, man, you start to see quirks in each other. You're gonna learn this. You probably are starting to learn this. I love my wife, but she's crazy, right? And she's developed this habit recently of when she eats a blissful meal, okay, and usually she'll make the meal. She started this thing where she moans, like, enjoy. So she'll bite into a great steak, and it's a little weird because she's beautiful, right? I'm like, babe, you're doing this in front of the kids, you know? And we're at dinner for my birthday this last year, and a couple guys were checking my wife out. That, you know, that's okay. You can look at my wife once, even twice, 3 times, we may have an issue. And we end up sitting next to these guys, and she bites into this steak on my birthday, and she starts into this thing she does, this like orgasmic moaning she does for food. I'm like, babe, shut it down. This is not fair to these guys. And the kids are like, Mom, that's creepy. She's like, what am I doing? She's like, it's so good. And she says to me in the moment, she goes, you know, the more I enjoy it, the more I want another bite. That's this principle. If you're not enjoying the bites of your success, you're not going to want to take another one. So I think any great meal you've all bitten into, vegan or otherwise, when that thing tastes great, you had yours earlier today, the bliss of how great it tastes makes you want another bite. So for you achievers, thinking that if you enjoy the bite, that somehow you'll be less hungry is absolutely not true. You will be hungrier the more bliss you allow yourself to experience.
Dude,
like
that is an epic analogy. Does she know that she's being used?
She absolutely knows lately, because it's still a little weird because she still does it.
But that is such a powerful point. That is so powerful, and bringing it to life in that way is brilliant, by the way. It's awesome. And it totally makes sense. It completely makes sense. And I think that's what we struggle with so much, is that we get scared, because I used to be like, okay, I need to stay curious and I don't want to be complacent. And then you start living in this, and it's such a cold, tense place to live.
That's perfectly right. And you begin to convince yourself, Jay, you're so right. You begin to convince yourself that somehow these patterns that I have that don't serve me are the reasons why I'm successful. But the truth is, you're winning in spite of these bad habits, not because of them. I used to think all the time, I'm winning over and over and achieving over because I don't enjoy any of this. I'm going to stay really neutral because I was raised like that too. If I hit a home run, we expected you to.
Yeah.
You know, really? You expected me to? I got straight A's. You expected me to? Same exact thing. And I married someone who is what I call very easily blissful. Simple things make my wife happy, right? Wow. Simple things. She doesn't need a mansion or a beach or fancy clothes or anything like that. She is easily happy, particularly if we're together. People make her happy. And she always taught me when we were little, because, you know, we met when we were 5 and 4. As a little girl, there was this wisdom. She'd always say, because I always want stuff, you know, I'm going to achieve. We're going to live in a beach house and a mansion and a jet and all this stuff. And she'd always tell me, babe, people matter, things don't. People matter. And this little girl would tell me this growing up. And then when I walk into McKinley Home for Boys, those words start to really be true, because guess what? It was in my reticular activator all the time, and people did start to matter to me, and things really didn't. And ironically, I got a lot of things because I helped a lot of people, but it really wasn't my intention. So anyway, she's right and I was wrong, as usual.
Great principle. Yeah, I love that. Now you mentioned patterns then. You were saying how some of the patterns we build, we think serve us, or sometimes they're not serving us. Now, one of your patterns you've always said is a little extra, always doing a little extra.
One more.
Like, yeah, one more. Like, tell us about who you saw that in, or how you perceived that and how it became a practice for you in a healthy way.
So actually, name dropper time. But I got a chance when I was a pretty young man. I'm in a gym, and Sylvester Stallone was in the same gym as I was. He and I, just the two of us in this very private gym. We both still belong to the same club.
Sylvester Stallone.
So am I.
I've only met him ever once.
I was a huge Rocky fan.
Me too. I'm a huge Rocky fan.
And he's got his shirt off because it's a little private gym that I'm in. And it was a pretty surreal experience, because in the middle of it, I'm like, I'm working out with Rocky and we're doing the Rocky workout. This is pretty cool. But every single lift we would do, if we had to do 8, he convinced me, he'd go, you do 8, and I'd go 7, 8. He'd go, 1 more. I'm like, 1 more. And every single rep was 1 more. And I walked out when we were done, thanked him, and we've become friends since then. And I remember thinking to myself, that's a great metaphor for life. If you're going to max out your life, it's 1 more. And so it's 1 more phone call, 1 more I love you to my children, 1 more reach out to one of my friends, 1 more rep in the gym. So I have this adage in my life where I just always do 1 more. And ironically, I've linked my self-confidence to keeping that 1 promise. Because I think self-confidence is the process of keeping promises you make to yourself. And that's a promise I can control, right? I can make 1 more text to a friend at night. I can tell my wife 1 more time I love her before we go to sleep. I can walk in 1 more time and do my prayers and meditation with my daughter. And that 1 more in my life has sort of become part of my identity. And I have this weird thing in my mind that I think that if I'm willing to do things most people aren't willing to do, perhaps I can produce results that are uncommon for most people. Yes. And that's the 1 more adage. That's why I do it.
I love that. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. Anyone who's listening or watching right now, like, that is something you can start practicing right now. And you're right. Do you know why that's so perfect? Is when you lose someone or something bad happens, you always think of that 1 moment that could have been different, that 1 call that could have gone differently, that 1 dinner that you could have had. Like, it's always that, right? Like when you lose someone that you love, or someone dies, or you break up with someone, you're always like that 1. Like, it's always 1. You never go, oh, there were like 7 things that we wish we did, right? Like, it's always like that. Yes. And so if you're always living 1 more, then you're already that step ahead, that you're actually stopping yourself from living with regret.
I've told you so many times, I think there's so much wisdom from such a young man with you. And one of the things, ironically, when you say that I've started as a practice to help myself be present. Because being present is a difficult thing in today's age. I think you'd agree for many people, it's projecting. Children are great at being present, but dreaming about the future still. And adults, we're not so good at that. And it's funny, but I do this thing with the 1 more where I flip it a little bit. And what if this was the last 1? So if it was the last 1, the last time I see my dad, how would I treat this engagement? Would my phone be done? How would we talk? What would I say? What would I do? What if it was my last wave I get to surf out there in the ocean? What if it's my last workout? What if it's my last meeting? Last time I saw my wife? Last time I talked to my friend? Last round of golf? Last whatever? Because when something becomes scarce, we give it value. And we become deluded in our life into thinking that somehow these are going to last forever. I'll always have 1 more. That's a perverted way of looking at 1 more. What if it's the last one? If we've learned anything recently with some of these people that have affected us all so deeply, that have passed away, a Kobe or somebody like that, it's because it occurs to us in that moment that this could be the last one. I was with Kobe the last Sunday tournament he was at with his daughter. Our daughters played volleyball against each other. And I didn't know Kobe very well, not as well as you did, but I observed him that day. And I remember thinking when he walked out of that gym, what if someone said, Kobe, you have 6 days left? What if someone would have told him when he got in the car? Can you imagine in that moment knowing that this is finite? We don't have forever. And so I do utilize that with myself. Our conversation today, what if this is the last time I get to do your show? It gives it importance. It gives it value. Scarcity means value. So I use last ones a lot too.
Here are 3 signs you're struggling with a lack of purpose. Number 1, you feel pressure to know what you want to do with your life. Number 2, you've lost interest in your own life and feel disconnected. Number 3, you don't know what your skills are or you feel you lack them. Hope is not lost. You can get through this. Having purpose and meaning in our lives helps guide us through the ups and downs and create structure in our day-to-day life. That's why I've partnered with Calm, the leading app for mental health and wellness. The app has a library with thousands of meditations, songs to help you relax and focus, and sleep stories to help you get a good night's rest. And now you can find the Daily J, a daily series where I'm sharing proven tools and techniques to improve your mindset and mental health in a matter of minutes.